Hey, I'm Alicia Noven, and I wanted to give you 4 tips on how to help yourself stand out in front of a hiring manager. I'm currently a director of engineering. I've been a team lead and a manager. I've been at it for about 10 years, so hopefully this advice will be helpful to you and really help you land that next job. So, here we go. So first off, AGILE. That's a word that you probably hear a ton of in our industry, but if you don't have a real good sense of what it means and the principles behind it, definitely go read up on the AGILE Manifesto. I'm not looking to have anyone recite those principles back to me, but I am, in the course of our conversation, looking to get an understanding of what you know about it and why it works. So even if you've never been in a professional setting, just going through the mental exercise of what those principles are getting at and what they drive forward is really, really valuable. And I think it helps people because it gives them a sense of, or gives me a sense of how they're going to be able to fit into the overall culture we're forming. So the second one is about acronyms, and every industry has them. We have tons and tons and tons of them. You know, there's your solid principles, there's DRY and GAGNI, and so many more. And you should definitely know your solid principles because that really drives how you write your code. But the rest of them, I'm not ever looking for someone to be able to rattle them off. And I'm not going to ask you necessarily about very specific ones, but what you should know and what should help drive the conversation is when I ask you to give me an overview of your work experience or the projects that you've worked on, know about those principles or the meaning and the context behind those acronyms and work them into the conversation. So, you know, DRY stands for don't repeat yourself. So tell me about how over the course of a project that principle might have driven some of the design choices that you made. I think that helps you stand out a lot more than if you're telling me about this one role where you worked on a team of 6 building an app. That doesn't give me a whole lot of information. But when you fit in those concepts into your overview, that really helps me understand what you know. So the Rugged Manifesto is about building code in the modern world and knowing that you need to build code that can withstand a lot of things that you couldn't account for. And know those concepts, know the principles behind them. Again, even if you can't remember exactly whether it's called rugged or not, that doesn't matter. But the concepts behind it will help drive how you have the conversation with me about your work experience. So you want to pull in those concepts as we go through some of the different questions that we have or your design process or anything technical that you've done in the past. So lastly, know something about the people that you're interviewing with. Whether it's the company or the product or the person, the more you know, the better you'll be able to have a conversation with them. And I'm sure you've heard this one before, so I want to provide a little bit more details about how to do this effectively. Inevitably in an interview, I or the hiring manager will ask if you have any questions for us. And when you ask your question, the more you know about the company or the product or the person, the better that will inform the kind of question that you ask. It'll set a good backdrop for it. So you want to ask a question that is relevant to the role. So you might look up my LinkedIn and see where I've worked, but it might not have any relevance to what we're talking about. But you might see that I've managed teams and teams of 50 or teams of 20. And so you might use that to inform the kind of question that you ask. Maybe you found the product that you'd be working on and so you were able to research it. But even if you can't find a lot, because sometimes it is a little murky, especially if it's a really big company, it's hard to figure out some of the details that are going to be relevant to you. So an equally acceptable thing that still helps you stand out is just to say, I was researching the company or I was researching the product and I found a lot of interesting stuff, but I don't think what I read was particularly relevant to this role. So I was wondering if you can tell me about, and then go on into your question. That alone tells me that you've done your work, you've done some research, and that you're driven by an interest and you want to be involved in the overall vision of whatever the company or the team is. So that'll just help you stand out. Now, do the research, don't just use that as a line, because I'll probably ask a follow-up question or I'll ask you to tell me something about what you read that stood out to you. So you definitely want to be able to back that up, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily looking for you to have been an expert because there's a lot that might not be immediately available to you. I hope that helps. My name is Alicia Novin. I'm also doing a podcast right now called Increments. It's all about creating space for us to think about how we grow in our technology careers. I hope you'll follow me. It's increments.dev. That's where you can find episodes and other content. Thanks a lot.